Welcome back to another episode of the Entrepreneurs Network podcast. Today's guest, I'm absolutely fucking buzzing for this one, mate. I've been on to you for the last 2 weeks getting this planned, sorted, getting it all laid out. Do you want to tell the guys a bit about yourself, Gary, and kind of what you do, mate?
Yeah, thank you for having me on, mate. So Gary Wilson, on a company called Let Property, which is Scotland's largest property investment sales company. But yeah, before that I had a marketing agency which I sold for a multiple 7-figure exit. So yeah, been an entrepreneur from a very young age and just still grinding, still plugging away, trying to build something really big, you know.
Love that, mate. So walk me through the kind of start of the journey then, mate, like how it kind of started out, because as far as I know from speaking to Reese, you started at 14, in your bedroom, just fucking going ham and learning as much as you possibly could about marketing. Is that along the right lines? Yeah,
I mean, so yeah, at a really young age, I've always been quite entrepreneurial. Mum got me a computer, and initially it was actually web design was one of the first things. I'd sold some stuff on eBay, and then I remember thinking, God, I'd like to be eBay. eBay fascinates me, you know. So I actually, learned how to code HTML, and it was eventually I think it was 15, I was cold calling just random people in Yellow Pages. You can't really do that anymore. People tell you to F off if you do that, but back in the day, if you had some balls, you could just go through the Yellow Pages and get yourself some web design clients. So yeah, I was in high school, I had some web design clients, and then what happened from that was it kind of led me down this path of having to learn about marketing, because when a lot of these kind of local businesses and things wanted a website, they would be asking questions like, why am I not getting customers, all that stuff, because people really do usually get websites to build a brand and to get customers ultimately.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, mate. And I think that kind of journey or transition from the web design into marketing sounds like it was very natural. What was the kind of first steps of acquiring the knowledge that you needed to provide that, I guess, extra service on top of the web design?
Yeah, I mean, it was scrappy. I mean, I was on YouTube, just watching, for first of all for the coding, it was just tutorial videos on YouTube, and then for marketing it was it was YouTube videos, and I eventually kind of bought some online courses and things like that to actually specifically learn certain skills. And the main one that I'd kind of really got into, and this is now leading us on to leaving high school, just going into university, because I did go to university. I was kind of my parents were all teachers. That was kind of the path. But while I was there, I just wanted to run my own business, and that was where I got into kind of marketing. Specifically, it was SEO that I began to learn about, and I got a course basically doing that.
Love that, mate. And SEO, that was the industry / company that you'd started, the industry of the company that you started that you ended up exiting and kind of selling, mate. So what was the company that you sold, what was the foundation of what you offered in the SEO side of things?
So I mean, SEO, for those who don't know, is basically it's manipulating Google search results to organically get your results to the top of the search engines, right? And it's very valuable for businesses, because if you ranked, for example, you had a CBD oil company and you ranked for best CBD oil, there's tens of thousands of people that search for that keyword every single month. If you were top position for that keyword, that could generate your business a lot of income. So, and the great thing about it is it's free traffic, because people searching for it's high intent. People want to basically click those top results. So initially, as I had a web design agency, I kind of just started an SEO agency straight away. And to be honest, that was the first company was a little agency called Jump Online. Again, this was just through uni. I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't really know how to sell. I was just pissing in the wind, to be honest with you. But what happened throughout that, I began working with some smaller clients. I became quite good at actually ranking websites. So I got good at the skill. I became good at being able to actually get results. So that became quite a valuable skill later down the line when I actually kind of went into a more niche business, which was effectively link building. So link building is just a small part of SEO, which is the backlinks. It's kind of like PR that you do on people's websites. And when I was doing that, that was the thing that ended up being mega successful. I was extremely good at that skill because of the 3 to 4 years of struggling with this agency. I became so good at this one skill and reducing costs on this one skill that it allowed me to create this amazing company.
Treat me like a rookie, mate, in terms of what link building was what you said, what that actually even looks like, or what actually is.
Absolutely. So basically, when Google's trying to decide which results to put to the top of the search engines, they need to use some form of scoring system. So the scoring system that they use, one of the main parts is backlinks. Okay. So basically, it's just votes for your website. So for example, let's say you've got a blog and then I've got a blog and we're both selling cat toys and we want to rank for that keyword. How's Google going to know which person to put at the top? So let's just say there was a Forbes article that spoke about cat toys and they linked to your website.
Okay.
So on that article, they have a link to your website. Google would basically see that link and they would give you a point for that, and you would basically rank higher than me because you have that. And in essence, SEO and link building is just the game of getting as many points as possible for websites so that they can rank at the very top. That's the simple layman's version of how it works.
Explains it perfectly, mate. And in terms of, I guess, like how you turned that into like your sole kind of like business model, mate, what was the kind of, obviously you said that was like the thing that you became best at, that's what you, like your niche almost like skill that you, I guess, offered. Not necessarily how, what was the kind of decision-making process of making that your niche skill that you offered? Was it just results?
Yeah, it was really results. I mean, so what had happened was I had this like SEO agency that I was struggling with, and because I wasn't making much money with that, I became so good at getting these links for such a low price. Okay. And I'd built like amazing systems and processes and ways of doing it that I was just ahead of the game naturally because of 2 to 3 years of hard work on that thing. So then what happened is people in the market decided they just wanted to buy the links. So I was working with like SEO agencies or companies that wanted to buy the root, almost wholesale services that go into SEO.
Yep.
And because I had that skill to be able to build those links at scale and at mass, I was able to instantly jump into that game and completely blow up the market basically.
I love that, mate. And what was the kind of decision-making process then to exit? If it was something that was doing so well.
Yeah, so I mean, when all of this happened, so I kind of got into links, you're now talking 2019, 2020 time is when it kind of started to take off. It blew up like super fast. So I mean, I went from literally making nothing to making hundreds of thousands of pounds a month and instantly became one of the biggest link services in the world. I mean, we were definitely top 5 in the entire world for this niche. I think at our peak we were doing about 300 grand a month in sales, and really the reason was the size of the market, right? So it's kind of like when past a certain point of making money, it becomes less about the money and more about the purpose and the winning and the achievement and the goals. So for me, the competition, the playing in a massive game is the most exciting thing. And when you go into a game and you become one of the best, there's not really much to strive for anymore, to be quite honest with you. So really for me, it was more about taking the skills that I had learned from that, running a successful company and saying, well, I'm still young. I've got a lot of fire in me for a long time. I should really take this and build into a game that I'll never leave, that's huge, that has no end to it. And that was property. So that was why I made that exit. Also, my mum, you know, like I basically bought some properties. My mum like loves property. It's just, it gives me ability to spend time with her too. It was just a much more enjoyable long-term plan. And this links company was, you know, it was still a great business, still running to this day very successfully. It's just, it didn't have the upside that I wanted, and that just became boring.
Makes a lot of sense, mate. See, the obviously kind of blew up almost like overnight at like some stages or at the very start. What was the kind of like scaling process, hiring process? What did that kind of look like? Like when that happened and it blew up and you went from like 0 to hero, like what the fuck? What was the kind of, walk me through that kind of process, mate?
Yeah, that was it was so fast. I mean, I was going like 2 million miles per hour when all of that happened, because you get all these sales, you're doing such a good job of sales and marketing. It's like, oh my God, I need to fulfill this. So luckily at that time, and even now, I have so many friends around me who have experience in working in big companies. So at the time I had a friend that was a management consultant. I had some mentors that had previously grown big agencies. So I don't think I super struggled with actually, you know, how to hire and build an operational team. I had some really, really good people working with me who were also switched on and organized. So that helped a lot to make that work. But I mean, we had a team, I think at our peak, of 36 virtual assistants in the Philippines alone.
Okay.
I think we're working with another 30 odd content writers for that business. And then we obviously had some people in management and sales in the UK as well. So this was like a pretty big operation that we had going. But it was just extremely well systemized. Everything we did was like on the ball in terms of making sure that we were getting the most out of the staff and that we knew exactly what work people were doing. You know? Say
someone's in a position where they're maybe scaling rapidly just now, what would be the kind of piece of advice that you would give them?
It's statistics is the best way to scale. You know, it's as horrible as it sounds. You've got to really look at people who work in a business. You've got to look at their KPIs and the results that they get. The mistake that a lot of people do in it from a management perspective is they look far too holistically at the human to human side of it. And they don't think, okay, well, look, I'm paying this person X, they need to deliver Y because everyone else can deliver Y, right? And effectively, if you know I'm paying somebody this and I'm getting this back, then it becomes easy to give them that, right? And justify that. A lot of people will maybe see somebody's having holistically a bad month, but they don't actually look to see, well, look, this guy's your top, delivery person or your top sales guy. So getting really clear on what you want from staff members, making it clear to them and giving them that vision, and then also enforcing it to make sure that those KPIs and those results are met. If you know the numbers, it becomes very easy to manage things because everything's just statistics at that point. You're not getting carried away with the emotional aspect of dealing with people.
What would you say you're like to work for?
I would say I'm ruthless but kind. Is the best way to put it. I'm one of the kindest people probably to anyone. I really do care about everyone I work with on a genuine deep level. But I expect results and I expect people to deliver back. And I would say that the kind of culture of anyone who works with me is that I expect the best version of them when they're working with me. And that's that's how I live my life, and that's how I would expect other people to act as well.
How do you kind of manage that kind of fine balance of the ruthlessness, but also the kind of kingly piece as well? How do you kind of manage that, mate?
I would say if you're setting, again, clear expectations to people as to what you're looking to get from them, people tend to be disappointed themselves that they didn't hit it, or didn't hit those results, or didn't deliver. So I don't need to be harsh, or I don't need to be strict, and I don't need to be difficult. If I can give somebody a vision and sell that to them and let them understand that this is possible for them, and I can take a person and understand the extreme of what they really could do, and they're on that page with me, 99% of the time they'll hit it and they'll do it.
I love that, mate. Where did you kind of develop that almost philosophy / thought process? Was that learned or?
I really do think I've naturally always been a very good visionary in general. So I'm usually very good at seeing what somebody could do and seeing the good in people or things and seeing the potential for what could be done with that. So I think that's probably my, in terms of business, greatest skill that I've just naturally and inherently had. And that's, as I say, I just apply that to everything. It's even in the types of businesses I've run and the ideas that I do behind those. I think it's the same philosophy I use in management and with teams as well.
Yeah, it's outstanding, mate. See, let's just use an example. Say you're hiring a sales rep. What are the things that you would want to see in them that would align with that vision of believing that they would go on to be an incredible sales rep?
Yeah, the big word that you said it yourself is belief. I think almost anyone is capable of anything if they believe it's possible. So for me, when I sit with someone, I want to make sure that their goals are aligned with what it is that I have planned in the business, right? So obviously you can look at things like experience and understanding of the market and the product that they're selling. Those are great qualities to see, which I think are important when you're hiring people, but for sales. But ultimately, a guy that sits in front of me with all that experience and all of that knowledge, but has no belief in themselves, will never succeed over someone who does. And that's it. I mean, I grew up with no business at all and not even a family that understood business. And I was able to come in and do a pretty good job at that from a young age, only because I told my mum when I was 14 that I was going to be a millionaire, right? So that belief in yourself allows you to effectively manifest and get anything that you want out of life. If you truly believe it, it's not just telling yourself, it's actually having that core, hard-rooted belief in yourself.
100%, mate. And in so many ways, what I take this, this is getting fucking juicy, mate. I'm loving it. Since we're on the topic of like scaling, hiring, that sort of process, say someone like a sales rep, like we spoke about Reese when we first came in.
Yeah.
Is there a chance you could kind of walk me through the process of how you would train up someone like that that maybe doesn't have the experience but has what you would say is a belief?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the biggest thing to training, and I think a lot of business owners make this mistake, is a lot of business owners will blame their staff for not delivering results when, truthfully speaking, the absolute most important thing is to remember that you should be responsible as a business owner for training and making your training so good that like a 4-year-old could come in and do the job, right? So when I take someone on, there's that belief there, obviously, but what I'm very, very, heavily responsible for is ensuring that I'm doing the most to make that person the best that they can possibly be. So for actually training someone, we have video training, we have external training that we brought in quite a lot as well recently. But we spend a lot of one-to-one time with someone when they first start, so they'll watch somebody doing the job and shadow them. And then very quickly, we'll just get them on the phones, get them selling and just see how they do. Truth be told, salespeople have a natural ability to connect with other people, so you can actually tell quite quickly if somebody's going to be good and if they're going to make it very fast.
For sure. And someone like Reese, for context, guys, Reese is someone that works for Gary that was a close friend of mine from the age of 5 or 6, which is mad that this has kind of went full circle. But Reese is someone that, I don't know if he would have told you this, man, but I used to be on him all the time about getting a role within sales. Him and Jack, both incredible at talking to people, connecting with people, and it's something that's very easy to, for me, it was easy to identify in them. Would you say that's the case for majority of sales reps or well?
Yeah, I think good salespeople are good at emotionally understanding someone and being able to present solutions. Like at the end of the day, like if you're selling someone, people want to feel understood, that they've been listened to. So somebody who can actually do that is quite a natural skill. Like you even tend to find it, not for Reese, but people who when they were younger had a lot of madness in their household, for example, turn out to be quite good salespeople because they were always kind of more aware, a high sense of awareness about people's emotions and understanding what people are going to do and maybe the house that they grew up in, so they can be very, very good at sales because they had that going on from a young age. So when it comes to that part of sales, it can be learned, but I would say there's a lot of a natural skill there that definitely helps get somebody ramped up to the point where they're delivering.
100%, mate. In regards to, I had a random thought there in regards to the structure of the company that you sold.
Yeah.
Did you operate as the CEO of that company?
The owner, full owner, ran it as well.
And the structure of the company that you now run within property, do you also operate as the CEO of that?
Yeah, so I'm the owner of that as well, yeah.
Yeah, and what's the kind of, don't want to have you like going through the full structure of the business, but like what could you like almost like give me like a visual of how it's laid out within?
Exactly. So I mean, we really have like two companies. We have sales and lettings. Sales is the primary business that started, and that's run by me. We have a few kind of guys in there with some equity that run the team at a kind of management level as well. And then we have lettings, which is the management side of the business, which I own with someone called Sarah. Basically, Sarah was already a letting agent for the last 10-15 years. She had 100 odd properties in her own portfolio. She brought that into let property. And then we basically grow through that as well. So lettings is a great tool for sales because people can buy properties through us. It's really what we offer is an investment brokerage service for investors. So they can buy properties for us. We can manage the property for the entirety of the owning them. And then they can sell the property through us again, making buying property as simple as trading stocks in an online trading account. So that's really what we offer to investors, and the lettings and the sales working together helps do that.
And how did that idea like even come to fruition?
Everything I've done, that, because it sounds really good now as if I came up with that, but everything I've done has been from relentless hard work and pain of being in an industry and figuring out the best market and the best thing that we could offer that market. So when I came into property after I sold the SEO company, basically the what I had learned from that last company was paid ads. I understood how to run Facebook ads more specifically, and I was originally running ads because I was buying property and I had sold this business, had a lot of money as well. I wanted to buy property, and at the time the market, you know, it was like you were paying over market value to get stuff from agents. So I was like, well, screw that, I'll just go direct to vendor. So the actual sellers themselves, I'll run ads, I'll get direct to vendor, and I'll get myself some cheaper deals. So that was what I did. It initially was it was really just a gig for me getting my own properties. But what happened with that is we naturally started to find opportunities that other people could buy. And more specifically, it was landlords that was the niche that we were starting to do deals with a lot. Because I was buying it as an investment, me buying some sort of property with a sitting tenant was a solution that I could provide a landlord that they couldn't get a solution for with an agent, because they would have had to evict that tenant and go through the gut-wrenching process of kicking someone out of their house. So because I was doing deals with those people, it kind of naturally swung into this business. Look, we could facilitate sales from landlords, which is a huge market that like nobody's served, and then we can basically get those properties going straight over to other investors, allowing the tenant to remain in the property, and the landlord can still exit for a great price.
That's fucking mad, you know, mate. The reason it's mad, though, the main part for me that I was just like, that's mental, is that you simply just utilised the paid traffic skill that you had to then get direct to vendors just because you wanted to move into property anyways, and then through that realise this mad opportunity where you've almost used like the paid traffic as just a vehicle for you to get directly to the people that you want to speak to. Because the agents are fucking rinsing everyone at that's what it seems. Yeah, it's so fucking smart, mate. And the kind of paid traffic sphere, have you used that for other aspects, like because it sounds like you've done that for other things as well, like just to use it to get in?
Paid ads was the main way that I was able to scale up the first SEO company. So there was a friend called Luke, and Luke was a drop shipping guy. It was funny. He came into Starbucks and like tapped on my shoulder and he was like, "Oh, is that Shopify, mate?" You know, and I was like, "Oh no, one of these donkey drop shipper guys." But Luke was actually running a really successful drop shipping store, so he was extremely good at paid ads. But what he hadn't really cracked at that time was the business side of stuff. So I had this successful link building company, and I began to work with Luke, who actually was the guy that introduced me to paid ads, and more specifically what you would call direct response marketing. So for those who don't know what that is, it's basically being able to go onto Facebook and find a way of spending £1 and getting £2 back. And that's as simple as what paid ads is. If you can figure out that model of like doubling your money, tripling your money through ads, you'd find £1 million to spend on it. It's a high leverage skill to have, because being able to do that trade almost, it's like a guaranteed, race to the top. So that was what Luke came in and worked on this company. And the thing was, I was competing with marketers in the US. Okay. So it was like, in terms of competitive niches to play in the paid ads world in, this was like top of the top. So it was like a 2-year battle of like going through lots of training courses, working with Luke, learning off of anyone and everyone that was successful at this, to the point where we were able to get a funnel really working for that marketing company. And that's what blew it from like 100K a month to 300K a month, and then we exited. So it was really with that skill, I was kind of like came into the Scottish property thing, and like everyone is asleep at the wheel here. So like I could do pretty basic paid ads in Scotland and completely dominate like anyone that was even trying it in Scotland.
That's so fucking interesting, mate, because firstly, we'll dive back into the 2-year span where you were almost like fully immersed in courses, learning all sorts of different stuff. Like what was the kind of, almost like walk me through like a day-to-day during that time period, like what you were actually doing.
Yeah, it was, I mean, like day to day for even the last like 5 years has been the same. Like I've always been working on the business, not in the business. So everything that I was doing was just like figuring out a better way of doing X or Y. So I've definitely jumped between departments. Sorry, it's not just been like marketing I've done for like 5 years. It's been like, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to figure out how to get this to work. And you're just getting scrappy. You're just like, some days I'd be creating web pages, and like next day I'd be like running ads in the ad account. The next day there'd be an issue in the operations, and I'd be away speaking to, Lyle, who's running our operations, and be like, let's implement this, let's implement that. But it was always like the next idea. It was the next thing. And that's what's allowed me, I think, to grow so quick all the time, is because I don't sit there and do the day-to-day of the business. I find people better at doing those things than even I would. And I give them the tools and the knowledge to do it so flipping well on a consistent basis. And then I figure out the next revelation and the next thing that we can really do to expand.
I can tell from just talking to you, mate, that you're not someone that is like scared to hire and just like take it to the next level. Where I meet a lot of people, a lot of young entrepreneurs that maybe they'll be in a good profitable position, and then they maybe, because they're in that good profitable position, it's almost like I don't want to dip into those profits to then hire someone to come in, so I'll just continue to do them in day and shit.
They don't really have a business. They have a lifestyle company, is what I would like to call it. They have a job, because if you're having to work in it, it's not really, I wouldn't call it a business. A business stands on its 2 feet. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful. I'm just saying that to be like honest. It's a skill to be able to leverage people, and to a point where you're able to make a profitable return on that. That's a difficult skill to learn, and that just takes going in and doing it and being scrappy. Trust me, I have had many months when we started Let Property, the business was losing money each month, right? Now it's wildly profitable, and people look at it now and they'll be like, oh my God, like, you've got this crazy profitable business, and how I've done that. Well, it's just like years of hard work of figuring out how to get that to work, and having most of all the foresight and the vision the whole way through to know that I will get there.
You kind of touched on it already, but let's say you were to give advice to people that are maybe in that sphere just now, where they're doing a lot of the kind of mundane tasks, and it's because they maybe don't want to pull the trigger on hiring, maybe because they don't know how to find the right person, they don't know how to train the right person. They're all things that obviously can become resourceful for and find the solutions to those said things. But say someone is in a position where they're turning over a decent profit and they could easily start hiring out, what would be your advice to them?
You've got to look for the easiest and most time-consuming tasks to get rid of first. People make 2 mistakes. They hire too quickly, and then they hire for the wrong things. People will be sitting there working a full day on delivery in a business, and then they'll say, I'm going to go and hire a salesperson, which is so stupid, because what you're basically doing is you're leaving yourself with all the delivery, and now you have the job of training a salesperson on top of that, right? So it's been very intentional with what it is that you're trying to attack and what you're trying to solve. I've always been create the shit show and then solve it with staff. Hire staff when there's a constraint that requires them to be there, because you physically can't do it yourself. So, and then of course, as I said earlier, like, when you hire for it, make sure you damn well know what somebody can reasonably do when they work for you in a month. Like, what can they deliver? And are you just overworking them? Like, people are just like pissing in the wind when they hire staff. They're like, I'm going to get somebody in to do sales, right? And then they'll get somebody in to do sales, and then they'll give them, far too many leads, right? And they can't handle them. And then they'll moan at the end of the month, and a business owner will take no responsibility, and they'll say, oh, their close rate's crap. I did it better. I'm paying all this money for leads and their close rate's crap. Well, their close rate's crap because you gave them too many leads. They should be doing half of the leads that they've got, right? So,
and why is that? Sorry to interrupt. Like,
if you had, for example, it might be that somebody physically can't spend the time with 300 people in a month, but maybe they can spend time with 150 people in a month and close those that have really high conversion rate. So you as a business owner needs to know what someone has the time to do, and then you need to be able to give them the skills and the ability to execute. And the high level of understanding of what somebody's able to do as a management skill that most people don't have. So if you know the stats of what somebody can deliver, it becomes very, very easy to analyze and see success in people.
So walk me through the process of maybe bringing like Reese in and like the sales rep role. Like, how many leads were you giving him? What was the kind of process of like leads, then like feedback, then working with them? Like, what did it kind of look like?
Yeah, so I mean, you're looking at like percentage close rate in sales, conversion, like, and I think I learned that skill from like paid ads. Like, you had a landing page. It was like how many people would click on this page and then fill out the landing page form to get in touch with you, and you're optimizing that, right? I mean, successful companies come from micro optimizations. It's not like it doesn't come from like some revelationary thing. You know, most of the time all you're doing is you're thinking, right, how can I get like 1% more out of everything? And if I can do that 40 times compounded, it's like a 50% increase in exactly what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
So that's basically been the process with Reese. It's been, you know, like take some leads. There's another 3 people actually in the business now that do Reese's job on a day-to-day basis. So really there's a large level of comparison that goes on. It's like, well, look, what, you know, if it's like Reese, like let's say Reese 1 month sold less than someone else. Why was that, right?
Yeah.
Did Reese get less leads that month? Did Reese close at a lower percentage rate that month? Yeah. Okay, Reese, and this is, I'm not saying Reese's talk time is down, but it's Reese, is your talk time lower than everyone else's? Were you doing less time on the phone than everyone else? You need to know, like, most people can't analyze where the problem is, and they don't know as an owner where the problem actually is, so they can't effectively hit it on the head. Most of the time, that ability to know what it is you're actually fixing is the problem. And the reason so many people don't want to hire or scared to hire is because they're out of control. They don't know how to make sure that somebody's delivering, and then they get into this stage of micromanaging and looking at every second move, and they're unable to relax because they don't know the stats of what they should be getting back from someone.
100%, mate. My first thought went to like, say, like email marketing. You'd have like an open rate, you would then have like a reply rate, you'd then have like a book call. Through looking through each of those different aspects, you'd be able to identify, okay, if the open rate is really high and it's fantastic,
your click rate is going to be super low if your open rate was low because you didn't get the people through to get the clicks, right?
Yep.
So you got to break everything down in your business like a funnel, and then look at the breaks, right? I meant, when I was saying earlier, like I like to work on the business, not in the business.
Yep.
I would say my full-time job is de-bottlenecker, right? Yep. All I do all day is just look for like the rates that I think that we're failing at, and I'll come in that month and I'll be like, right, we should be doing better than 5%. That should be 8%. And this month we're going to make it 8%. And here's what we're going to do.
That's powerful, mate. If we run it back, because I'm almost like, through asking these questions, I'm piecing together this almost like big, massive puzzle that I hope people that are listening at home are following along quite well, which is that you went through the process of, and correct me if I'm wrong, acquiring a high ticket skill, say someone in the form of SEO. That then dives more into the marketing side of things, like paid traffic and other different aspects. Yeah. Through getting that skill, through that like 2-year span where you're competing with all of the top dogs in America, you're able to acquire this skill at a very high level that's then used as a vehicle to move into these other industries. Yeah. And through using those other industries, or using it in these other industries, you're able to create obviously a stupid amount of opportunities, leads in cash, and scale that up. Yeah. I guess where I'm going with that is that through you doing that whole process and acquiring that high ticket skill, it makes it very easy for you to plug that skill into pretty much anything. Yeah. Exactly. And then as that drives forward, you're able to just very simply focus on, like you said, the bottlenecks and just improving every other aspect of the business to bring it up to the top.
100%. Like I think that the best business people tend to be generalists. They're never usually the best at one thing, but they become extremely knowledgeable at everything, and they have anyone I know that's super successful is extremely curious about all aspects of business. So for me, it's like people will look at like our property business, and it's like we currently sell 3% of Glasgow's sales market, according to Rightmove. And it's like a year ago I was nothing. I didn't even have a Rightmove account a year ago, right? So it's like we've literally dominated some of these agencies that have been around for 30 years like that, right? And you get the haters from that, but it's like the the point of that is that didn't come because I'm some magnificent, smarter person or found this some magnificent little niche or something like that. It really just came from having a skill, as you're saying, that was paid ads, and I was able to apply it into this industry, and more specifically applied it into an industry that really was lacking and didn't do a good job. And I was able to take a lot of the operational knowledge that I had from building and growing a team in the Philippines, which is a difficult thing to do, working with people in another country where there's earthquakes going on all the time. It's like that's not easy to manage. So then managing UK people becomes like a lot easier, right? So all of that just like made the journey easier than it would have been for someone starting from zero. And as a generalist in business, all I care about is acquiring new skills that I can then apply into the next thing that I'm working on. You know, the most successful people are just curious about the next level, the next thing. You know, for me now, it's like I've always had like a 3-level tier of like a business. So I've had like people who like do the work, management, and then me, right? As your business expands, you realize the need for even further tiers to that, 4, 5, and that's what hierarchical structures of businesses end like. That's how you get big corporate companies and all this stuff. For me now, I'm entering that world. It's like it's going to get so big that I need to now open my business mind up, get around people who are in that world to begin to understand how that even looks. Like, it's crazy to me to think that I could be hiring somebody that I don't even know their name and they're like 5 people away from me. Like that's just like is mind boggling. But being able to execute and deliver that is like, the next thing that I need to know that skill to make that happen and work.
100% makes complete sense. And I think the aspect of the VAs, that's something that we need to dive into just out of pure curiosity. The 3% like domination of a
Glasgow market.
Glasgow market. Yeah. What is the average like letting like agency, like what would be the average that they would dominate?
Average sales, this is sales agencies, they would like, if the average is like it's all over the place, you get some that are really big, some that are really small. We're probably like top 5 in Glasgow because 3% of the market, so there's not really many people that are more than that. I think Purple Bricks is the biggest. It might even be us in Glasgow. Purple Bricks have like 5%, but most kind of like high street agents, the guys you'll see, they'll have like 1 or 2%. They're pretty big companies. Okay,
cool. Just out of pure curiosity, I had to dig deeper on that. The VAs side of things, hot topic, comes up all the time where people are pretty hesitant to move into the VA market in terms of working with, like you said, like individuals in the Philippines. Walk me through almost like the journey of what you learned from the very beginning of working with VAs in the Philippines to what you could take from that and then apply to working with individuals in the UK market.
Again, you know, so from the management side, it's really just looking at members of staff, like, and I don't genuinely believe this when I speak to people, but you have to, from a statistical element first in a business, when you're working for that company, you have to come in with the mindset of they're just there to fulfill X and Y. They're just a number on the table, right? Like, I like to think I've got 2 personas. I've got Gary, who's like the nice, kind guy who cares about you. And then I've got Gary, who works in the business and like treats you like a bit of software that we're either going to cancel the subscription of or we're going to keep you on, right? And if I'm going to keep you on, then you need to deliver Y, okay? But more importantly, I make sure that the why that I'm asking you to deliver, I know you can deliver it because I've done it or someone else has done it, and I've calculated things so in depth that I know you can hit this number. Okay, so it's a fair why, right? So with the VAs, that was really the approach. You know, it became a lot easier as it scaled. The first few were shit show, of course, and that's what was expected. And then you start to realize, oh, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm not training them right. Maybe I'm not explaining that properly. And the way that we did it was really simple. I mean, it was quite an easy onboarding process because the training and this processing systems we had were so good. We'd like written out SOPs. We had a full training course that we gave these Filipino virtual assistants of like 25 videos where they would learn how to do their job. So we didn't have to sit with them in free calls to do the training. We could just shoot the video once, give them the trainer over. And we knew within 2 weeks for that business, we knew within 2 weeks if they hadn't built 2 backlinks within 2 weeks, first 2 weeks, they wouldn't work. You just begin to know the numbers as to what works and what doesn't, which ones work out, which ones don't. You see which ones work out and why, and you see the problems. So From knowing that and from doing that with so many people, by the time you get to person 5, you've got a working model to be able to scalably hire and fire virtual assistants and know who are the good ones. And that's it.
That's incredible, mate. That's honestly, man, the nuggets sort of coming from this, mate, because I think VAs is what a lot of people will look at, and they'll probably look in like the UK because they'll have the thought process of
it's easier. Yeah, they're just people, you know. It's like it's definitely harder. There's more underprivileged, less skilled people in the Philippines, but honestly, dude, like some of the Filipinos are like the hardest working. I had that mindset too, but there's like some of them are like the hardest working, like most amazing people that like better than some of the people in the UK, honestly. So it's a bad preconceived notion and mindset to have, to be honest with you. It's not true. As I'm saying, like people need to take a hell of a lot more responsibility for why people can't do their job properly. That comes down to the business owner, and that's the weight that people should take on to basically get success.
Makes a lot of sense, bro. Makes a lot of sense. In regards to there's one of the areas that I guess I laid out in the plan, which was almost in like a kind of marketing and sales kind of like deep dive mini masterclass. We've touched on so much of that already, mate, but is there anything that you've not touched on that you think would be incredibly valuable for the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk well about like paid ads. So yeah, I mean, like a lot of people, when they're trying to run Facebook ads, are doing it very, very wrong, to be honest with you. And yeah, upskilling in that, I think Facebook ads is just like one of the best places to predictably begin acquiring customers. And if you know how to play that game, you're just gonna like, yeah, you've got an endless skill that allows you to spend £1 and make £2 back, you know?
Yeah. It's like a slot machine where you always win, was like the analogy.
That's it. You know, it's predictability. It's that's the magic of it. If you know how to play the game properly, it's a winning advantage every time.
100%, mate. Where would you advise someone to start with something like that? Also, YouTube and stuff like that would be incredibly useful, but you seem like someone that has been incredibly resourceful, mate. Where would you kind of direct people towards?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the main thing would be to focus on the skill of copywriting, and I think people forget when they run Facebook ads that they think there's some little hack in like a Facebook ad account that they're going to come in and like push some button and all of a sudden generate customers profitably. A deep level of understanding of your clients is the key to making Facebook ads work, because what sells is being understood, and being understood means writing copy on an ad or a landing page that talks directly to the type of customer that you want. Most people don't have a clear tap on that themselves, and therefore can't communicate that in their advertising, and then their advertising doesn't work. So basically, Facebook ads is just a tool to get your ad and impressions out to thousands of people. It will do such a good job of getting it in front of the right people, provided that you put the right effort and energy into understanding who you're trying to speak to, and ultimately calling out the ideal client for yourself and providing them with an offer that just solves their solution. Yeah.
In regards to so many ways that we can take this, mate. Jesus. The piece where you spoke about speaking directly to the ideal client, I see it a lot where maybe people will have this notion or thought process where like they have this solution but they don't know how to communicate it to their ideal client, or they might not even know who their ideal client actually is. What would be the kind of first steps that you would advise for them to, I guess, like fill out for them to actually get to the stage of being able to speak directly to their ideal client?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to, you know, and is this for someone that's never dealt with this client before, or is this someone who already has?
We'll do both.
We'll do both. Okay, so I mean, like if you've never dealt with the client before and you just have a hypothesis for a business that you're coming into, you need to just find a way of getting scrappy and getting people on the phone and starting to sell to them, you know? If you're selling to plumbers, go and flip and phone some plumbers in the yellow pages and get going. Like, speak to people in the market and begin to understand them. And hey, if you're in the market and you have clients, then go and download an avatar, marketing avatar. There's 100 of them online. If someone wants to hit me on Instagram, I'll send them mine. But just ask questions like, you know, what's their biggest frustrations? What are they looking to achieve? what's the 4-step process that you can take your ideal client down to get them to a point where you can deliver for them, right? Because ultimately, you know, when somebody buys anything, you know, they're at position A and they're looking to get to position B. And in between, they're just looking for the best solution to do that. Okay. So if you understand that whole journey better than anyone else, and better yet, you can create an offer that is 10 times better than what is on the marketplace right now, solving that, making that process quicker, cheaper, you know, less pain-free. If you can do that, then you're going to clean up. And that's the essence of a great business and great marketing. Is it should be so easy to get customers because people can't say no to your offer. It's just the solution that they wish that they had, you know, it's the thing that they just need. And if you can understand somebody so well to understand what they need, you can just give them what they need. You don't need to sell it to them, right?
And that makes sense relating back to, I think we discussed it maybe off camera, I don't know if we discussed it on camera, but the philosophy that you have with, like, say, like someone like Reese, you will give them, like, if they come in as a sales rep at the very beginning, you won't like stick them in role player and you'll literally start firing them out with leads, getting them on the phone, and getting them progressing. I guess that ties into that kind of thought process.
Absolutely. I mean, that's it. You just got to, you know, dive in, get going, and stuff will start to come off it.
Absolutely, mate. And a lot of it kind of relates, I guess, to like what you kind of touched on at the beginning around the gap in the market you've seen within the property side of things, where it was like, fuck, man, nobody's doing this at all, or utilising this skill that I've really got. And relating to your mum as well, which I wanted to kind of digress into those areas, spending time with your mum and that kind of different aspect. Has she always loved property?
I mean, she was, you know, she had a dream of when she was younger, she never did it, but she had a dream of, you know, owning hairdresser shops and, you know, like renting out the seats and all that. So she's just always had a kind of passion for like buildings and property. She used to watch like Away in the Sun and all that stuff, you know, so she just loves it. And, you know, she was a teacher, and as she was kind of retiring, she bought a few rental properties. For me, like, I'm just a shrewd businessman. I just looked at the returns and the investment side of property, but she's really into like the actual, you know, dealing with, you know, doing it, building a great home for a tenant and making the place look lovely, turning something that was once shoddy into a beautiful masterpiece. She's just really into the kind of emotional side, I suppose. And that really, when it comes down to doing it, that helps a lot to have people like that around. That's what really I would say has made my portfolio work quite well. It's just been around people that are really passionate about it. And that was a nice thing. But property is just one of these markets where there's no ceiling to it. And I think I naturally just had that little bit of a tendency more towards it because my mum had done well with it, and we'd done a few rentals and it worked out.
And in terms of like where your property portfolio is at just now, could you disclose like what that's kind of looking like?
Sure, so I mean, I've got about basically over £1 million worth of property that are rental properties. And I get more than cover my own personal income off that portfolio. I don't actually have a lot of debt on my portfolio, but for me the goal of it has just been like this security fixing button, to have this portfolio that just pays me like an income every month. It's always been like super fascinating for me to like have that like true passive income. And, you know, property can be like that if you have the right people like managing the portfolio, and you buy the right stuff that, you know, causes you less headaches and things like that. So that journey for me to create that was like a lot of like learning, being scrappy, being in it. And it's really cool now to be able to like work with investors and like help them do the same thing. So I mean, I wouldn't say I'm like a guy that, because I could buy more property, like I'm not a guy that wants to be like a property investor. I see the property portfolio as basically a income generating tool. I'd just rather pay down some of the mortgages on them, and just kind of like get the income off it. But I could absolutely do more, just more focus on my business and marketing and all that stuff. That's for me, the focusing on that is a much higher leverage and skill that can, you know, generate a hell of a lot more.
100%, mate. And it makes a lot of sense because as you were kind of talking through it, it was like, well, if you can, like you spoke about earlier on, start working through the aspect of scaling the company that you're currently working with, how quick you've made it go from 0 to 100 in the last 12 months, like you said.
Yeah.
Why would you, you know, spend time building up a portfolio when you could just build up, like you said, a higher leverage opportunity that's going to create the cash, either the cash flow, or it's going to create potentially another exit for you to then go and fucking...
I mean, a lot of, like, one of the biggest questions I get from investors is like, because we sell properties, right? It's like, oh, if they're so good, why don't you just buy them yourself? The thing is, I do buy them myself, but I'm not in the business of being a property investor. I'm in the business of growing businesses. For me, it's like the sales side. Like, I'm going to make a hell of a lot more and do a lot more impact in the world by having a sales team of 100 people spitting out thousands of property sales per year and just collecting a small percentage of the fees than trying to, you know, basically take all these properties under management, raise all the finance for those properties and actually do them myself. So that's really the key reason. There's so much opportunity in that game as an investor, and it's really what your goals are. You know, I'm not really got like people who do property quite well, they have a, you know, someone who have like a construction background as well. The guys who really get into it at the level of buying hundreds of units, they have that little edge in like the property space. That's just not something I've naturally been like super into. I like to leverage the skills I've naturally been tends to work towards, which is marketing and, you know, building teams basically.
And what are some of the goals that you've got just now that you've maybe not touched on so far?
I just want to build the largest investment sales company in the UK. For me, this is just about winning and being the absolute best. Like, going from selling the marketing company, you know, like after I sold that, it was actually like, I thought I was going to be like the happiest person in the world, but it was like the complete opposite, because I went from being the top of this world in the SEO space to being like the bottom of property. And that was really difficult to deal with at that time. So for me now, you know, I really just had to prove that point that I could like do this. Past that, now I've just got to like be the best guys. I've just got to be the top in the world at this, you know.
That thought process of wanting to be the best in, where do you think that kind of stems from?
Yeah, good question. I think it comes just it came really young. I just had it in school. You know, it's just some people picked on me a little bit, I guess, at the really, really young age, and that kind of stemmed into, I suppose, just trying to prove a point, just trying to be great. And I think in some ways that's unhealthy, but what it's really turned into now is just like impact. It's like you get to see when you build businesses, like you just help so many people, and it's so rewarding to build like something big. Like you create jobs, you create, you know, even the customers you deal with, like you help them. Like when we sell a house, we like help a seller like get out of perhaps financial difficulty. You let a tenant stay in a property, and a buyer gets to, you know, build their portfolio and retire at, you know, 52 instead of 55, you know. So it's like impact's important in providing something that's really good for people. I think it's great. And also it's, you know, it's been able to have more freedom and do great things. There's a selfish aspect to it massively, where, you know, you want to compete against your peers and experience things that, you know, they've not even got near yet. Like, for example, like one of the next things I'd love to do is like fly private. That would be so cool. Like, I've just not quite hit that level of status and wealth yet. So that would be the next cool thing to give a bash of. So just growing, and I've just always had that mindset of pushing to be the best version of myself that I can be.
100%, mate. See that kind of competitive, almost like atmosphere that you're talking about with your friends and people around you? Yeah. What are some of the things that you've seen your close friends or business relationships that you've got do that has really pushed you forward?
I'm always so happy for, like, I love to meet people who are like doing so much better than me, because I'm like so buzzed for them. And for me, I've just always wanted to just been curious about like how people have done it. And then I've just like strived so flipping hard to do it myself, you know. So that's really just been my model. It's just like rise others up with you. Like one of my mentors had a really good saying, and it's always stuck with me. Is like, what's the point in going to Dubai and zipping about in jet skis if you've got nobody to do it with, you know? So it's just going to be, it's just a game of being able to work with, ultimately, the root of it all is just work with like really cool people and, you know, help each other climb to the top.
How did you find your mentor?
I've got a lot of mentors for different things. I mean, I never really even call them mentors. They're just really like, it wasn't like I went out seeking a mentor. You know, it wasn't like a dating thing. I just was like so passionate and hardworking that I think people who were beating me and better than me and older than me in certain spaces probably saw a bit of them in me, and they wanted to help. You know, and I think that's really the truth. I mean, even people that I would help out, I wouldn't even call it like I'm a mentor. Like, it just feels a bit weird to even say that. But like people that I would help out, you know, if somebody's got such passion for something and they're really trying, you would just infectiously want to help them, right? And I think that's just what I've had is just like certainty on the result, passion to get it. And people who have been there and done it just want to be part of that.
What do you think that kind of willingness to want to help those that are dedicating a large amount of time to something comes from?
Say that again, sorry, the willingness to...
Just want to help people, man. Like, so when you identify someone that is working so damn hard, obviously you touched on earlier on, those mentors see that little bit of themselves maybe in you. Is that what you think it drives from? Definitely,
yeah. I mean, I think having nothing and getting to a point where the belief that you had in yourself that nobody could really see becomes true, and you actually did it. That's one of the best feelings in the world. Like that's just something you can't relive again. So I think when you help people that want something so bad and everyone around them is telling them and looking at them thinking they're like this idiot, and you remember the time when you were in the same boat as that person, it feels really nice to be able to be that person that can do that with them again, and it allows you to kind of relive the experience that you had when you tried to do that. So I think that's really what it's all about. It's that initial belief in yourself, and bringing that to fruition is just one of the best feelings in the world.
See, from an aspect of, and I'm going to ask this because I meet so many people, mate, that are even like running a network. There'll be a lot of people that will come into the network, they'll share the exact same values as me, and they'll come in and they'll maybe have the thought process of like not wanting to ask for help because they maybe feel bad, or they don't want to bother someone, or they want to just like, there's aspects that come into play that I guess is reflective of past experiences and relationships that they've had where maybe they've asked for help and it's been shut down, and then they've just had to pave the way themselves. Now, say someone was to meet someone maybe with a higher status, higher earnings, they've been there and done the parts that they're currently experiencing.
Yes.
What would be your advice to that individual that is working so damn hard, that does meet someone that could potentially help them, but they're maybe scared to even ask for the help?
The thing is, if you genuinely are working hard, people who are successful will want to help you. I think that's something that a lot of people who are starting out miss. The reality is like, how hard are you really working? Like, do you have so much belief that this is going to happen and you've just given everything? Like, people don't see the iceberg of failures and the iceberg of pain that I went through when I first started. They just see it now and they go like, oh, he's just lucky, or he's just got something in him that lets him do it. Like, dude, I was like 2 stone overweight, like from where I am today. I remember sitting like in bed at 3:00 in the afternoon. My mum had came home from work, and this was like the rock bottom of like trying to get my SEO business to work. And my mum came in and said like, if you don't like get it together, you should get a job. And I fucking hated her. Like, I was, and you know what? She was so right, but I couldn't face the fact that it wasn't working.
Yeah.
And that was so difficult at the time. So it's like, when I see someone now who like, I can see that they aren't like that. They haven't put that much pressure on themselves. And then they come up to me and they tell me they're trying. They don't even fucking know what trying is.
Yeah.
Right? Trying is like literally killing yourself to get the result that you're trying to achieve. Like accepting failure is just not an option.
Yeah.
And I think you can sit in front of someone for 2 seconds and analyze that when you've done that yourself. And that's most of the reason why I think some people will, because anyone I know who's like really in there and like actually trying tends to get the help quite quickly and will tend to attract help because people see it. Like I want to see people, I want to be around people like that, you know? It's like you become a hot commodity when you aren't winning yet and you're trying and nothing's going to fucking stop you. You're just a hot commodity from day one. So that's the question I would ask someone to ask themselves is, are they doing more than I did when I was sitting there, you know, effed and my mum was telling me to go and get a job if it didn't work out? Are they doing that? Are they put themselves in that much pain to get it?
Have you spoke to your mum about that time?
Yeah. We spoke about it quite recently actually, and I hated her at the time. I was so because it was just me. It was the problem. I couldn't face that at that time. I was just weak. It was like I'd put so much pressure on myself, and I told myself it was going to work. When I was like 14, my dad died, and he left like 30 grand of inheritance money. And basically, I had was starting this like SEO company, and I was just like working every fucking day. Told myself it was going to happen. Told everyone it was going to happen, and it didn't. And when you believe something to be so, like the true cause of misery and sadness comes from your expectations not being met. Ultimately, if you have low expectations, you'll never be sad. You know, it's like that's probably one of the nicest places to be honest with you. But the reason I've been successful, quite frank, is because my expectations have always been so high. And that's why I've strived and I continue to strive for greatness all the time. So at that time, not meeting them was like physically and mentally got to a point where of severe difficulty. And I still rode past it. I still got past all of that. But that's where I get pissed off, when people tell me they're trying and I know they're not. They think they are.
And that's like, in your eyes, your version of like trying was that, you know, 2 stone overweight, fully fucking locked in.
I'm not saying anyone should do that or go through that pain, you know. But I want to emphasize that the heat that I put on myself to work hard. Like I was like waking up, working, sleeping, waking up, working, sleeping. I did that for 2 to 3 years straight. And I'm not saying I didn't have fun times around that. I still went on trips. I still spent time with friends. But truthfully speaking, I can sit with somebody in 2 seconds that's not making it. 9 times out of 10, I could eat them alive on their work ethic.
I think from an aspect of what you kind of touched on in regards to the attraction point, the magnet point, it's spoken about so often because a lot of people will want, like you said, someone to just give a hand out. If I was even maybe referring to, had this conversation quite regularly with not necessarily clients, but maybe like friends and stuff like that. I had a guy, Victor, reach out to me, who's now became a good friend. He does all my editing for all my content now. When he reached out to me, the in-mail that he sent me on LinkedIn was fucking awesome. I've touched on it in other episodes now. His approach to wanting to work with me was so fantastic. And when we went on that first call, the truth was that the standard of content that he had prepped for me ahead of the call wasn't up to par. I wasn't satisfied with it, and I was honest with him. And he specifically asked for the feedback on the call because he knew that I couldn't lie to him, because he could tell if I was lying or not. Little did he know the type of person that I was, so I obviously just told him straight. First question that came out of his mouth was like, right, cool, how can I improve it then? How can I move forward with it? Gave him feedback. Within 24 hours, he had a revised copy to me. It was better, still not to the standard I looked for. I then looked at people in my own network that created a higher standard. Relayed that back to him. Within 48 hours, they'd implemented all of those points and it got to a really good standard. And I was like, this is fantastic. Now, through that, naturally, because of my values, the relationship that I'd built with Victor in such a short space of time, I really admired that about him. And the relationship that we then built resulted in him landing opportunities like working with one of my top clients, Jude, and like a proper like paid role where he works with some of Jude's top clients and doing the editing. He's then landed other, clients and opportunities through that as well, a good handful. That has all came off the back of one email. Now, the reason I went on that kind of ramble spree is that when I speak to clients maybe in that sphere where they're wanting to reach out to these higher status individuals, they'll look at the aspect of status, but will they look at the aspect of maybe what you touched on earlier on, where you're this kind and generous and giving individual?
Yes. And
a lot of people struggle to detect that, man. They struggle to detect the individual that is purely in it, not just to, look like care for people and look after them and take on that responsibility, but also they'll have that statistical side like you touched on.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's really a question in this, mate, but I feel like that was a perfect example for me of like, Victor's reached out to maybe myself, and because I have that caring aspect of wanting to help someone and feeling like someone actually deserves those sort of opportunities, it was very easy for me to provide them to very naturally.
I think this is really true. I mean, like, there's a, as you say, there's a spectrum of this, right? My mum is like, she's in this level of like caring so much where it's like a problem. So like empathic level of caring, where she'll just help anyone, right? And then there's this ruthless, like, businessman side, like shrewd, doesn't care at all, just wants to get what's in it for him and succeed, Yeah. And then you have, I like to try and put myself somewhere in the middle of that. I think a lot of people really struggle to see, that you even truly care sometimes, because a lot of people don't have that themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best, one of the best, I would say, pieces of advice, but you can't fake it. You have to care. It's not something you're going to learn. Caring just is something you have or you don't have it. But if you do have it, and you do actually want to see others do well, you don't have this negative, because not caring comes from almost a negative place of like jealousy and selfishness and all that kind of stuff. Like, if you don't have that, and you don't have that kind of horrible side, and you see the world is abundant, you see that everyone can really thrive and there's opportunity for everyone to succeed, then naturally speaking, you get so much back. And that's what's happened with your editor right there. Like one of the first clients that I got was, there was a guy that phoned me when I first started my SEO agency, and the type of business he had wasn't SEO wasn't the right thing for him, and it was like he was speaking to other agencies, and he had quite a lot of money, like he would have been a good paying client. But I actually told the guy, like, you shouldn't do this, you should just go and run some ads instead. SEO is not the right thing for your business because of X, Y, and Z. And then a month later, I get a call off this other guy who was in a bigger business in London, a hypnotherapist client. SEO was perfect for him. I don't know where this guy fucking came from, right? And then I asked him at the end when he like signed, I was like, how did you even find out about me? And it was like, my friend, was this other dude that I'd turned away, told me to come and speak to you, and he told me that you refused his business. So I knew that if you sold this to me, that it would be the right thing for me, right? And that level of care always, every single time, gets you so much more back than being selfish and greedy in the short term, because just some way in the world, the other kind of caring people seem to find their way to you. And that's where you end up with those opportunities coming back.
There's so many things that links to, where it's like, I was having this conversation with a client this morning, to be fair, where he maybe felt like he couldn't turn away the potential clients that were coming in the door, even though he knew that they, not necessarily didn't, he knew that he could get them results, but it was the flip side where they were maybe really cold, and like he didn't have to share the same values of that as them. And because he believed he could get them results, but he was working so closely with them, it was like there was things kind of rubbing, it was becoming quite unaligned. And for him, it was almost like a thought process of like, I can't turn this business away, because he had maybe a scarcity mindset as opposed to an abundance mindset. And it's an interesting one, mate, because it always comes back to bite them in the arse, where that client that they'll take on because they want to help them, but they might not align in values. Like a couple of months go by, they just leave anyways, or they're maybe unhappy, or even if it does work out, they'll then refer more clients that are just like them, and then they'll have more bollocks that will come through, as opposed to like what you've just kind of proposed.
It's got to work, It's the same as everyone. That's why when we're hiring someone, the number one goal I ask is what their goal is. They tell me they want to drink sangrias and live in Jamaica. Like, I am so happy, but this is not going to work, right? Because like what you see as like the perfect goal for you does not align with what I'm looking for you, right? So it's like, it's just got to, it's the same with clients, the same with anything. You want to, if you're a good owner of a company, will be able to notice that in everyone, whether they're clients, whether they're employees or whatever. They'll be able to notice a true vision for that person and how you can help that person be lifted up with what you've got to provide, and how that helps them get to what they want to do with their life.
Absolutely, mate. And it's so damn powerful, because you're leading. One of the things I actually had a thought process through you when you were talking earlier on was the aspect of just ethical sales. You're just wanting to provide people with a solution to their problem, and that's like, so many people will overcomplicate that with sales, marketing, all these other different aspects.
They think it's some like hack or horrible thing, or like you're doing someone a disservice by psychologically pushing them, especially in Scotland, because again, in Scotland we seem to have this scarcity mindset. 100%. People want to buy things, people want to change their lives, people want to do whatever the hell they do. Like, you've just got to, as a good salesperson, it's not really selling, they're just helping someone put their thoughts together so that they can make a decision. And like, you would help a friend when they went into like a shop to buy a new phone, you would help them as a friend to advise them what type of model to buy, or what size is going to like be better for them when they're at the gym. Like, that's just genuinely caring. And that's all sales really is. And most of the time, if people have a true problem with that, you need to maybe look at other things. Like, is the product you're selling shit? Like, is it not right for people, Because I have an intent focus in saying, well, look, if I want good salespeople to sell my shit needs to be fucking the best. It needs to be so good that they are begging to sell it. Like, it's just the obvious solution for somebody,
100%, mate. And say someone's got like maybe a really good business model or a good proposition just now, but they could maybe make it better. Now, this is going to sound so broad, mate, because we've not got a specific example, but say they wanted to innovate it, improve it, what would be your kind of process for making that happen?
So it would be the same process as I would take for, I think advertising and marketing really comes down to the same thinking I would have when it comes to the business side of creating an offer, okay? So creating an offer, just so that someone understands, that's like, I am offering to give you this coffee for $4.99. Like, I'm positioning something to you in the market, okay? I could make it in multiple ways. I could say, well, this coffee comes in this little plastic cup. Or I could say this coffee comes in a mug, okay? Now, each offer to you is going to have a different reaction based upon what it is, right? This one, I can walk down the street with it and kind of look cool because it has Starbucks on it. It's like, this is cool, right? Walking down the street. But if you're going to give me a mug and then I want to leave, it's not going to work for me, right? So the offer purely comes from understanding the prospect. And that's where I think building an avatar to the premise of all of this is so, so important, because an empathetic, deep level of caring and understanding about your client allows you to construct the best perfect pitch solution for that person to get them from A to B. And the better you understand their frustrations, their problems, the easier you can make it. I'll give you an example. Like, we sell tenanted properties, okay? One of the things that we do very differently to a lot of agencies is there was a lot of clients that came to us and they wanted to sell a tenanted property. And sometimes we might come out and view the property prior to selling it, right? Now, if a landlord's selling a tenanted property, one of the things that they're worried about is their tenant knowing they're selling before they even know what the property's worth to even know if they're going to sell it yet. So what we created was a tenant confidential viewing service where we would come in, and we wouldn't come in there with a let property jacket on and tell the tenant, we're selling up now, buddy. We would just come in there. We would just say we're a valuer or a surveyor or whatever. And that's really what we were, just a valuer. Just come in, have a wee look round, get out of the property quickly, not wear any branded clothing, and give that comfort to the client, because we would be saying, well, it's confidential. Do you want to request a tenant confidential viewing service? And that made them feel at ease that, oh my God, these guys are going to like cause my tenants have a ruckus and they'll stop paying rent and they'll create all these scenarios in their head. Okay, so only from understanding what frustrates somebody on the sign up process, we can actually create a service and a solution that's unique in the marketplace, because we've been through so many of these people. Like, all landlords inherently have the same problems, the same frustrations. We do it day in, day out. We're able to service that market better than anyone in the country. So that's the kind of the thing of, like, first of all, identifying people's pain points, identifying the problems that people want solved, and then thinking about the absolute best solution that you can offer.
Yeah.
And if you can create that extreme value, price sensitivity, and all of this kind of stuff, kind of goes out the window, because you're just offering the best possible solution for that person, and they can't look anywhere else.
100%, mate. And a lot of times you'll hear objections around the aspect of maybe like not having the time, or like not being able to afford it, for example, and both of those come back once again to a level of extreme ownership, where you have to look at yourself and the offering and what you're actually providing.
Exactly, and that's it. I mean, like, that's the mistake. I think most a lot of business owners, they're just like arrogantly assume that they're the best and they should be the best. And arrogance seems to work quite well in business, because it gives you a kind of step in to kind of start to tell people to come with you and you're the big dog. But when it comes to the real players and the guys who really succeed, the arrogance completely kind of has to go out the window, because you need to start to really look and care about people. If you want a mass market of people to see you as the go-to guy, people buy things for them. Okay, so as a business owner, going in it purely for you is not going to work, my friend. You have to come up with a level of care of them first, and then solving their problems every single day better than even they know how to solve them.
And I think that's where something like this, where you've went from 0 to 12 months of building something like this, that I've been watching so many podcasts and deep diving into some kind of areas like this, which is that a lot of people will either have really strong marketing, really strong front end shit, where they'll generate a shit ton of leads, but then their client delivery and retention is shocking. And then the flip side of it, you'll have people that have really good client delivery and retention, but their marketing is fucking shocking. Whereas you have both. I try to do both.
And, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the best in the world at everything. There's people doing a hell of a lot better than me. But yeah, it all matters. I mean, I think the strongest place to be is actually with a great back end and a great business, a great offer. And then because marketing can be learned. You can't fix a broken business unless you really get down to the deep levels of it. And sometimes it's like almost unfixable. Like, truth is, you're just selling something that either a very small market really wants, or that isn't very good as compared to your competition. You know, too many people don't go in with that level of insight. If you want to compete in a marketplace, you damn well better know how you're going to win. And the way you can win is by things like having better marketing, ultimately having a better product, better fulfillment, being able to do it quicker than other people. What a lot of people will do is they'll come into, like, they'll say, I'm going to sell bikes, and then there's guys that are multi-billion pound companies that create bikes all day, and they have teams of people that do product development in bikes, and they come in and they just create a bog standard bike and they think it's going to sell. It's like, you're an idiot. Like, why would that be better than these guys who have offices with tens of thousands of people? Why would you win? You know, the question I would ask myself before anything is, why do I deserve to win? And if I can answer that question first as to why I'm the best, it makes it easier to ensure that I do, right? Like, pick a race that you actually have a chance of being able to compete in. Don't just sit there and aimlessly go and hope for the best to come out of it, you know?
100%. What was the kind of, when you ran through that question, I guess, with the kind of property side of things, you touched on it earlier on, where not anyone was really doing the kind of marketing aspect. Was that what you believed would allow for you to deserve to win? Yeah,
so I mean, I literally, there's a note on my phone of, like, I literally wrote down why I will win at this at the very start. I just looked at the competitors in the market. I mean, the biggest edge I think we have is marketing. Like, it's like so bad. Like, everyone that sells properties, for anyone that understands the market, it's like a bunch of old bozos that have been doing it 30 years that don't know online, is the honest truth. Very good in their field, understand the property game, understand how houses work and things like that, but they've got these, like, bad business models now with, like, too much staff overhead. They're not charging enough for their service. It's become very commoditized, and that mixed with they don't know how to acquire customers at scale. That's the general hypothesis and truth of what I saw in the marketplace. So I saw that coming in. I knew what I was up against, and I knew I had to compete and be able to beat it. And I was not. I mean, I didn't even know how to fucking sell a house before I started it, right? I know how that process worked. I remember like selling one of the first houses. I already like sold like 5, but I thought that like lawyers would like just send the legal offer of a house to the other lawyer. And I didn't really, and I emailed lawyer, like, there's the other lawyer's details, like you do it. And then this lawyer phoned me. I meant to be this like big agency, and she phoned me, was like, Gary, in my 40 years of doing this, I've never sent the offer to another lawyer. I always send it to the agent, and then you send it to the lawyer. And I'm like, oh yeah, I knew that. I knew that. So just like getting scrappy and doing it. Like I was so bad at selling houses a year ago, but yeah, it's developed and I've got a lot better at that. But what I really had was a very good ability to get customers and get people to talk to me, and because of my thinking on marketing, it's allowed me to create a better solution as well, and actually change the way that we sell the houses, do it better, which allows us to make our clients more money, sell quicker, and we can still monetize it really well as well, because we're working with all these investors that want our assistance and guidance on how to actually buy these properties and build a portfolio.
It's immense, mate. Honestly, I think we could sit here all day, mate, to be fair, and I think we've been going for like nearly an hour and a half now already, which is fucking crazy.
This has been good.
We'll need to do like a part 2 or something, mate, and really get a good deep dive maybe from some of the listeners once they've listened to it, of topics that would need to go deeper, mate, because we digress. We covered a very broad range of things, mate, but there was a lot of value in that, brother, so thank you so much for just taking the time to...
No, I really appreciate you having me,
come on, mate. It was class, man. In terms of where people can find you,
Instagram's the best place, so at Gary Wilsey on Instagram. And of course, if you're selling a tenanted property or looking to invest in property, letproperty.co.uk is the best place to go there. But yeah, hit me up on Instagram. I love speaking to people.
Love that, brother. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much to Paul as well for the studio and the shooting. It's been an incredible episode. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. We've got episodes going up every 2 weeks at the moment. All incredible episodes like this one with Gary. Got plenty more in the pipeline. If you're on Spotify, ring that wee bell as well, and have an incredible day, troops.